Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Welcome to our series Journey Through the Tarot. We are examining the cards one by one in the Housewives Tarot by Paul Keppel and Jude Buffum. And this week we are focusing on the Justice card. So first let's go over a few first impressions. As you can see, Mother is taking a wooden spoon to the backside of a naughty child, but then you also, almost in the corner, you see a lollipop. This shows the duality of the nature of justice itself. It isn't just about punishments, it's also about receiving rewards when rewards are fitting. And really, to receive justice is to be judged. Now, this is an important thing for us to contemplate because judgment has become a dirty word in our society, and undeservedly so. And it has become wrongly synonymous with the idea of condemnation, that all judgment is to disapprove of someone or to look down on them or to view them as lesser than, as wanting in some fashion. That's a misrepresentation of what judgment is, and it's definitely a misrepresentation of what justice is. Because justice as a concept and as a consequence, it's about figuring out what is fitting and proper, what is deserved in a particular situation for the parties involved. And the process of figuring this out, it has to be based on very solid ethical and moral principles in order for it to have any validity whatsoever. So there's a lot of room for discussion in what constitutes justice in a legal sense, in interpersonal relationships, or in any other human setting. Now, you will find that people who are opponents of the idea of judgment, they tend to have two main objections. First, they are fearful of errors and of reaching an improper judgment, and that's natural enough. We don't want to be on the receiving end of injustice, and most of us, I think, are fair enough and reasonable enough people that we don't want to be deliberately being unjust to others. But the other objection is rooted in an irrational desire to escape consequences, and also the delusion that it's possible to do so. Well, we know that simply is not how reality works. There are always natural and logical consequences to our actions, even if we aren't being held to account by another human being. So fearing judgment or disliking it doesn't mean that it ceases to exist. And the truth is, human beings are always going to struggle with what it is to be just and to enact justice. But the universe does not have our difficulty, and neither do the gods. We are always going to be accountable in some way, shape, or form. So if we can accept that reality, we are doing ourselves a favor and we're saving ourselves a lot of mental and emotional wear and tear. Something to consider. Now, let's look at our handy dandy booklet. It has a couple of key words: fairness, rewards, and punishment. The idea of fairness, this really is a very human concept because it's really on our planet, so far as what we're aware is regarding the intellectual capacities of living beings here. It's our species alone that has the capacity to even think about what fairness is. In the animal kingdom, it's can I take it or can I not? Can I eat this or can I not? Will this kill me or will it not? But for us, it's a lot more complicated. We have a more sophisticated social structure. So the idea of how to coexist with each other and, not to be any worse to anybody else than what we have to be, that is something that is unique amongst us as concerns, and it's difficult. It really is very difficult. Now with rewards, we all like our rewards, but rewards are empty if we know deep down that we don't actually deserve them. So being able to have some confidence that if we're receiving a reward, that it's because we've earned it, we have done something of merit, that's very psychologically important. People who get benefits without having done anything to earn it, well, you can see how that works in their mind. It isn't just a question of spoiled children who have an overinflated sense of entitlement. They go on to become adults, and they're all kinds of messed up because suddenly the world isn't just rearranging itself because they had a temper tantrum. Something to think about. And also the idea of punishments. Nobody wants to be punished for anything ever. That's part of human nature, but sometimes we do need to be held to account in that way and to say that, no, you really screwed up here. You really crossed a line over here, and you shouldn't be, well, you shouldn't be allowed to just carry on without seeing some results of that, of having something taken away from you. It's the justification for when things become complicated in relationships. If you hurt your partner emotionally over and over again, well, it's going to change the dynamic of that relationship. And until that damage is repaired, well, you're not going to have the hunky-dory honeymoon period because you haven't earned it. It's not the reflection of the truth of um, where that relationship is. And it's also on the macro level in society. This is the justification for why people are put into prison of saying, no, you can't be going around stealing stuff that doesn't belong to you, assaulting people, or doing even worse things. You can't be taking people's money. So for the time being, we're going to put you over here, and we want just so we can get a break from this horrible behavior. Now, ideally, people can reform, and the whole subject of whether or not the justice system as it stands serves that purpose, I think, is something worth discussing, but it's also a separate discussion from this video. But ideally, that's how it would work. You mess up, you get corrected, and then you correct yourself, and you change your behavior, and then you start to have a different form of justice. Instead of being punished, you are treated differently, and you can earn back rewards. Now, here's what the booklet has to say. Justice is best served by a fair and impartial judgment. It is about weighing both sides and finding the proper balance. The time has come to get what you deserve. Justice is as much about rewarding with sweets as it is chastising with a wooden spoon. It's up to you whether you end up licking a lollipop or rubbing a sore behind. Like Mother always says, what goes around comes around. Oh, how true that is. Sooner or later, it does come back around. And that can be for good or ill. And I think we can't overemphasize the fact that it could be good outcomes. So receiving justice could be a good thing for us just as much as it could be unpleasant. Now, when this comes up in a reading, I think this comes up in 3 different capacities. First, as good news, the sign that things are going in the Clarence favor, it's going to work out, everything's going to be okay. Things will be resolved in a manner that that's going to be good for them. It can also come as bad news, that the Clarence comeuppance has arrived or is rapidly approaching, and the best thing to do is just take your licking. If you are getting undesirable consequences, I think it's better to understand that you have earned this, and that it's time to sit back, take it, and learn a lesson from it. Think about how you arrived here to begin with. That would probably be a good thing to do to lay the groundwork for avoiding coming back to that point again. But the third way that I think this is going to generally apply in a reading is that it's an admonition to exercise justice towards others and to really think about what justice means and being prepared to stand by that. It's a call to examine your moral and your ethical principles on a really deeper level. So much of what goes on with people is a result of living at the surface level and not having anything well-defined underneath. And we as a species, we just can't function that way. We're not just animals. We also have that higher spiritual capacity. We are a combination of both. So we can't just go with our instincts and try to avoid unpleasant things. We have to understand that it's part of the deal. We're going to deal with good things. We're going to deal with bad things. And then we're going to be called upon to show that proper justice towards other people. And you can't do that if you're only doing surface level thinking. So there's a lot involved in this. So I hope you found this interesting. Next week, we are going to be looking at the Hanged Man, been put on that laundry land and hung out to dry, so we'll hear all about that. But for now, thank you for joining me. There will be a link in the description box below where you can join Blackbird's Brew and get into a conversation with other like-minded people. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and like this video. But for now, bye-bye.